It's that time of year. We're rounding up accessories, and for today, for you PC gamers, we're looking at 10 of the best gaming keyboards for 2018. Now listen up, the way this one works is the first half is keyboards under $50, and the second half of the list is keyboards over $100 that we recommend. And they're all linked in the description below. But let's get started off with number 10 and talk about the Logitech G100s combo. Now, sometimes you have to look around a bit, but this one is usually found for around 50 bucks from some third-party resellers, and what you get here is pretty much a basic keyboard and mouse combo. But thankfully, it's from Logitech and the build quality is decent, and overall it's pretty reliable. It's a no-frills build, to be honest, but it's very durable, the materials are pretty good, and the response time is under 2 milliseconds, so it's still pretty fast and accurate if that's what you're looking for, and if you're into that type of thing, it does come with highlighted gaming keys, meaning that the WASD and arrow keys are colored and highlighted, so it's easy for you to find. Really, we can't say a lot about this other than that it's simple, cheap, and reliable. But next at number 9, we recommend one of the most basic keyboards from Rosewill. This is their RGB gaming keyboard, and it's simple, stylized, and it's not bad considering it's incredibly cheap. You do get most of the features you want from a more high-end gaming keyboard, meaning RGB lighting, and a pretty decent wrist pad. This is a membrane keyboard, but the keyboard caps are switchable if that's your type of thing, if you like a little customization. And it is worth pointing out for the media savvy, you do get multimedia keys. But really with this one, it's just about comfort and looks, and for something like 40 bucks, what you're paying for is basically like a low-end version of a Corsair keyboard that you would otherwise spend a lot more money on. So if you're into that type of over-the-top gaming style, but you're not looking to break the bank, I think this Rosewill one will be the one you want. But speaking of Corsair, at number 8, we should talk about their low-end offering. That's the K55 RGB. This is another nice keyboard that has onboard multimedia keys. It's RGB lit, it does have 6 programmable macro keys, which is useful, and it does have a wrist rest. While it's a bit chunkier than the previous keyboard, a little less low profile, it's still of nice build. And if you've used any Corsair stuff in the past, you know that they make pretty decent products regardless of the price. So with this one, the way we look at it, if you like to keep things simple, but at the same time, you do want to stick behind a brand, the K55 is under 50 bucks, so you should consider it. Now next at number 7, speaking of name brands, we have the Razer Deathstalker Essential. This is pretty much Razer's pared down, most simple keyboard. And with it, you are getting a nice build. It's a little thicker, but you get a wrist pad. But on the flip side, compared to the other keyboards on this list, this one has the lowest profile keys. So we really included it really for variety's sake. Not everybody likes thick, chunky keycaps, as much as those are often considered better for gaming. This is a pretty no-frills build, and especially considering it's not RGB lit, and it doesn't have too much Razer branding besides the wrist rest. Really, this is pretty low-key, and you can essentially use it at work in an office space, but also still feel cool and still feel a little bit like a gamer if that's what you want. And not only that, it's cheap. Honestly, it's one of the cheapest Razer anythings you can get. But thankfully, with that, you do get that name brand behind it. So since we are covering all the bases and different types of keyboards, the Deathstalker Essential definitely earns a spot in this list for that. But now at number 6, if you don't care about name brand that much, we do have the Azio Levetron L70. This goes back to one of the more low-profile gaming keyboards. It's got a detachable wrist rest, it's lit up like the 4th of July, but it is worth pointing out that it does have a volume adjustment knob on the top right, and those things are pretty useful sometimes. Most people use third-party ones to the side of their desk, but to have that on a keyboard is often pretty cool. Other than that, it's a pretty standard keyboard. The key height, I would say, is about mid-level. So if you're not into low-profile caps, but you're not ready to really commit to those big chunky boys, this might be an easy alternative considering it's not too expensive if you want to just kind of test the waters. While not breaking the bank at all, consider the Azio Levetron L70. Every once in a while out there's a cheap brand that you don't recognize, but it's really a diamond in the rough. And judging from our experience and a bunch of user reviews out there, it's not that bad. But now at number 5, we're gonna move on to keyboards over $100. So if you're looking to spend a bit more cash and get that high quality keyboard action, let's move forward at number 5 with the HyperX Alloy Elite. First off, it has a very solid steel frame, so you can beat the shit out of this thing and it'll hold up. And just like every other keyboard on the market right now, it does have RGB, but you're able to store 3 different profiles on the onboard memory, so you can change it on the fly by hitting a key instead of having to use software to do so, which I really appreciate. You're also able to choose what switches the board comes with. You can choose between Cherry MX Blues, Reds, and around. So if you want the more traditional clicky blues, you can do that, or go with the quieter and lighter reds, you can do that too. It also ships with textured titanium WASD caps, which I know some people are really into those big keys being textured so they're easier to find on the board. It also comes with non-textured titanium number keys at just 1 through 4. I've always been more of a fan of the more low-profile media keys, and this board has just that with a volume wheel that doesn't take up too much space. There really just isn't anything crazy going on with this board, but you're just getting a solid quality AS keyboard that might run you a few dollars, but it does seem like you're getting what you pay for here. Now at number 4, we have the SteelSeries Apex M750 TKL. This is the same exact thing as the Apex M750. This is just the TKL version. TKL meaning 10 keyless, because it's missing the number pad. I know there are some people that absolutely need the numbered, but going TKL saves on desk space, and depending on where your keyboard is in relation to your mouse, you leave more room for your mouse as well. Andrew in the office uses a TKL for that exact reason, and he loves it. It has a solid aluminum case that's built to withstand hours of use, but also remain pretty surprisingly lightweight. It has SteelSeries' own QX2 linear mech switches that only require 45 grams of actuation, which actually gives you really fast reaction times. And this board also has some really cool RGB features. SteelSeries software has Discord integration, so if you're crazy, you can actually get your keyboard to react to certain things on Discord. For example, you can have your voice level show up on the F keys, and then have the F keys turn red when you're muted, or even have your keyboard let you know when you have a Discord notification. I'm not really into too much RGB stuff like this, like when the RGB reacts to having your alt in Overwatch or whatever, but still, I just really appreciate this built-in Discord integration stuff. It's just fun. But coming down to number 3, we have the Razer Huntsman Elite. This is Razer's newest keyboard, and this one is pretty different from the rest of the keyboards they offer because it has Razer's new opto-mechanical switches. They just feel like regular mechanical switches, but instead of the actuation working via moving parts, it works via a light. So when pressing the key, it activates the light, which activates keystroke without any delay. This is really cool, and we appreciate it, but for most of us using regular mechanical keyboards, we really aren't going to notice the difference. This is saving literal milliseconds, but the tech behind it is really cool, so there's no denying that, and if you appreciate that stuff, you definitely will here. The keys still feel like Razer green keys, which is pretty much a Cherry MX blue switch, so you'll have that clicky-clacky feel and sound, and it's also worth noting that each key has a stabilizer, so each keystroke is consistent no matter where on the key you press. The board also has crazy RGB like every other Razer product, but this time the wrist rest also has RGB, which I guess is cool. It also features media keys, which one of them is actually a dial. That's programmable via Razer Synapse if you can get that to work. So in that case, you can use it to adjust volume or brightness or something else you can think of. And there's also the non-Elite version of this keyboard that lacks the multimedia controls. It's a little cheaper than the Elite. This is one of the more expensive boards on the list at a couple $100, but it does have some cool tech. Moving on to number 2, we have the Logitech G513, which is a keyboard we really like over here because of its simplicity. It's just a very simple, pretty looking keyboard. It has a really nice aluminum brushed metal finish with the gray-black colorway looking exceptionally nice. It doesn't have any extra keys like media controls. All that is handled through the function keys, so that's important to note. And if you want to change up the simplicity a bit, it does ship with gaming keycaps that you can swap out to give it a little bit of pop, and also make the typing gaming keys a bit easier to use. You can also change it up with the built-in RGB either by using the built-in profiles or making your own using Logitech's fairly decent software. That same software also allows you to apply macro commands to the function keys if you're a macro kind of person, and it also ships with a comfortable memory foam wrist rest, which I can definitely appreciate. Not every keyboard ships with one of these, but when they do, I notice as someone who prefers to play with a good wrist rest. But yeah, the overall simplicity of the keyboard is what makes the Logitech G513 such an awesome board. Now finally at number 1, we have the Corsair K70 Mk.2. This is a follow-up to the beloved Corsair keyboard, and with this Mark II version, it seems like Corsair's approach was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Visually, it's mostly unchanged from the last version, but with a bigger wrist pad that is just pretty sexy, not gonna lie. It has Cherry MX mechanical switches and a basic numpad with slightly tweaked media control buttons, and now has way better cable routing built in on the bottom of the keyboard. And for gaming, it's a solid pick that just has stood the test of time a little bit at this point. It's quick, it's fairly easy to get used to thanks to good key spacing, and it's got a premium look while still thankfully coming in well under $200. If you're generally a fan of Corsair stuff, this is a safe bet, and we don't think you'll be disappointed. But those are 10 gaming keyboards we can recommend for 2018. We talked ones under $50 and we talked ones over $100. So of course, we want to know in the comments what you guys are using. Not only that, if you got recommendations for us, we also just want to hear whether or not you're down with spending a bunch of money on a keyboard or if you like to just cheap it out and go no frills. We want to hear your perspective on stuff like this for future videos we're making. So let us know how you feel about these keyboards that we talked about and just keyboards in general. But if you did enjoy this video and learn a thing or two, maybe about a special keyboard, clicking the like button does help us out. We really appreciate it. And if you are new, you should consider subscribing because we put out stuff like this all the time. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.